welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort in commentary, Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And oh my god, another exceptional episode of Lucha Underground tonight. Some big revelations made, some storylines, moving fast and marching towards Ultima Lucha. Some big news about that, some great matches peppered in, of course, as is per usual. I mean, there are not enough good things I could say about Lucha Underground as a brand, as a program, or this episode in particular. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
This is the kind of episode of Lucha Underground that reminds me why, for so many weeks straight, I was talking about how Lucha Underground was leaps and bounds better than NXT, because this show was exceptional.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much I really can't wait to talk to you about, in particular the fate of the Aztec medallions, which we will get to. But yeah, this was just a stellar episode. Is there anything else you want to say before we get right into it?
Let's get into it, brother.
All right, with our first segment, you know what it is. Heat of the night. And while these luchadors may have been on fire, I certainly wasn't about this show. No heats of the night tonight. I loved it from top to bottom.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was even sitting here thinking yeah, I'm gonna have a heat of the night, and I'm gonna get all angry that Muertes was showing some humanity by getting knocked out by Prince Puma, but to me, that was such a perfect segment because it shows that it's not going to be a one-sided fight.
Right.
Because, going into it, if it wasn't for what we got tonight, I would have been like, well, Mil Muertes is going to have a friggin' squash match and win the title.
Exactly.
But now after tonight, I'm like, oh my god, maybe Puma can actually do this. And that's exactly what they want us to feel, because that's exactly what the purpose of that segment served.
Exactly. I feel like Prince Puma's whole, inaugural Lucha Underground World Championship reign has been predicated on optimism, in the sense that he can overcome these odds. And there's no greater odd than Mil Muertes. So I agree with you. I really enjoyed that main event segment. We will have a big discussion about that when we get to it. So you have no heats of the night either, so
nope.
Nothing else you want to say about that segment?
Absolutely not. Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot that I want to say about this segment, but we'll talk about it when we get to it.
Right. I meant heat of the night, but since you have no complaints, I have no complaints. Let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. And of course, we always start with a video package, kind of recapping all the main stories that are going to be the focus of tonight's episode. But we go to that into a cinematic segment featuring Big Ryck and Dario Cueto. And I just love how these two play off of each other, dude.
Yeah, and it's not even really how these two specifically play off each other. It's just how good they are at filling their own specific roles. I feel like they don't even need to have chemistry in order to do what they do as well as they do it. Because you have Dario Cueto playing this super, I don't even want to say powerful because he's such a coward most of the time, but this super ambitious, I guess you could say, promoter who wants more from Big Ryck, because Big Ryck has kind of lowered himself to being in Daivari shadow because Daivari pays him a shit ton of money. And then you have Big Ryck, who's this big, scary badass who, Lucha Underground hasn't been great for him.
Right.
He lost an eye. It really, if I was Big Ryck, I'd probably want to just sit back and make big paychecks too. But Cueto wants more from him, and Big Ryck is just this big, scary, intimidating dude, and he knows how much of a badass he is. And it's a couple of very separate sort of dynamics that just, whether they're actually talking to each other or not, just work.
I just love how Big Ryck is the model employee, because he's the only one I know that takes his workers' comp by force. I lost an eye. I'm taking everything else from you guys. And that's pretty much what happens here. I mean, Cueto tries to appeal to Big Ryck, says, hey, I feel like you and I have gotten off track with each other. Don't forget, You were the first guy I signed to a big money contract. The first night Lucha Underground, I gave you $100,000. I had big plans for you. And then Big Ryck goes, had? And Cueto's like, yes, had. You've lost your focus. You've become more concerned with Daivari's money. And then he shows Big Ryck one of the Aztec medallions. He says, but tonight I want to give you an opportunity, pretty much offering him one of the medallions. And he says, I'm finally going to explain to the world the power of these medallions. So you've got a choice to make. Do you want money or do you want power? And then this next part had me dying because he had Big Ryck token on his cigar. And I'm thinking about it. And then he's just like, why choose when I can have both? And Cueto's face.
He's just like, son of a bitch, you're going to rob me now, aren't you?
The self-awareness, though, in that moment, like, yeah, I'm getting robbed. And he gives the money and the medallion.
Yeah.
And then Big Ryck's like,
it's all right, John. They always teach you in situations like that. Just give them what they want so nobody gets hurt.
Exactly. And then as Big Ryck's walking out because he just has to be the king of the puns on top of it, he's like, hey, I'm glad we see eye to eye. And I'm like,
well, that's actually how Cueto opened this, too. Cueto opened this with, I feel like we haven't been seeing eye to eye lately. And just Big Ryck just kind of got this look in his face like, really? Really, dude? And then, like, he talks about, Cueto's like, I feel like you've been blinded by Daivari's money. And Big Ryck's just like, blinded, really? Like, next thing you know, you're going to say something about me being in the black, too. Like, what? Come on now.
Yeah, dude, this segment set such a great tone for the rest of the episode. I thought it was hilarious. And see, that's the thing, like, I think promotions like Lucha Underground and certain segments in, like, say, NXT have really told me the kind of humor that I connect with in pro wrestling. It's not
deadpan.
Deadpan, yeah, definitely.
Straight-faced, just straight up, not even acknowledging that it's supposed to be funny, but just making plays on words and double entendres and stuff like that.
Exactly. It just really direct line to my funny bone, man.
Yep, same here, brother, same here.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yep. They always say that in wrestling, funny doesn't draw money, but in this case, might not be drawing money, but it's a nice little added spice on top of the weekly amazingness.
Yeah, I'd say Big Ryck got paid pretty well. I think he'd disagree.
Yeah. I was even going to say, like, between the $100,000 contract and all these random gigantic wads of money that Dario Cueto just whips out of his desk, and all of Daivari's money that he's been getting, I'd like to believe that Big Ryck is going to retire next year.
Yeah, it's like I'm telling you, man. He's just hoarding all that cash, and he's just going to, cash out and get out of there.
And the great thing is, I don't think the guy even owns a shirt, so you know he's saving.
Definitely. Oh, man.
Yeah, this is great. This is an amazing opener. But then we go right to the commentary desk. They fill us in on what's going on. We find out that Prince Puma will speak. Finally! We're going to hear Prince Puma speak tonight. And up next, we're getting Johnny Mundo versus Texano, which is actually the perfect transition because that was exactly what was next. Melissa Santos announces from Los Angeles, California, Johnny Mundo.
And while the crowd should have been bowing down and on their knees, being damn grateful for the opportunity, they were actually, can't believe I'm going to say this, they were actually jeering Johnny Mundo.
What were they chanting, dude? It sounded to me like they were chanting Johnny Hero, but I wasn't sure.
They were chanting Johnny Rudo, and then at another point, they took such liberties with his name, they called him Johnny Zero. At which point, I saw him look at somebody in the audience and mouth to them, shut up. Which, I mean, being the poorly educated audience that they are, I think that's the soundest advice they could get in the temple, because they clearly don't know any better.
Like a dog. Like, you can't get mad at a dog that you haven't trained yet for peeing on the carpet. You just have to kind of accept that it doesn't know any better and try to teach it better next time, right?
Exactly. I mean, they don't recognize the talent that's in the ring. I mean, unless it's Texano, who, is apparently...
Or Alberto El Patron.
Oh, God, it's sickening to me. What happened to fans? They lost their way. But I digress.
I love that they cheer for the heels until it comes to Johnny Mundo.
Exactly. Yeah, what, he's not good enough for you?
They cheer for Mil Muertes, they cheer for Pentagon Jr., but Johnny Mundo...
It's absurd.
He's an actual bad guy.
And I really do love that, too. I love how he approaches his matches as a heel. you and I recently, and I was so glad you told me about it, and we listened to it together, the Stone Cold podcast with Mundo on it.
Yes.
Had nothing but great things to say about Lucha Underground.
I love his logic between face and heel. If you're a face, you give the crowd what they want. If you're a heel, you give the crowd what they don't want, or you just don't give them what they do want.
Exactly.
I love that so much. That's such a great, and it's a really black and white way of looking at it, but in today's day and age, that's exactly what it is. Because, like, you look at Pentagon Jr., he's a heel in the 80s because of how violent he is. He breaks people's arms. He ends their careers, kayfabe-wise. I mean, obviously, tonight we saw Ricky Mandel, so obviously he doesn't actually end career, and Hernandez, both of them. But, like, he's this horrible person, but because the crowd wants that violence, he's giving the crowd what they want, and they cheer the shit out of him. But Johnny Mundo, he says, no, I'm not falling for that trap. I'm going to actually get booed as a heel.
I love it, dude. I love it. And he had a solid opener with Texano. I enjoyed the back and forth from both guys. I feel like it's really easy for guys, and not to say they don't have to do any work. I mean, obviously that's not what I'm saying, but I feel like it's easy for guys like Texano and Alberto El Patron to pull off being babyface because of the cultural connection they have.
Yep.
So it's great working with a guy like Johnny Mundo because he is kind of an outsider, and I think that's another reason why, if you want my honest opinion, I think he's able to get that heat. Because with the Mil Muertes and the Pentagons and all them, they at least have that cultural connection.
Right, and they were actually well established in AAA. Well, I mean, at least Mil Muertes was well established in AAA before Lucha Underground. I feel like Pentagon Jr. has been starting to get a push in AAA since he was kind of exposed to the world by Lucha Underground. But regardless of that, everyone knows Ricky Banderas / Judas Macias / El Macias, whatever you want to call him, Mil Muertes. Everyone knows him.
Right, absolutely. And so, Mundo's kind of severed that connection if he's ever even had it at all. And, he just kind of...
I mean, there were a few episodes of TWitWoW where I was making the observation that he was the most over babyface in the temple.
Right.
So the connection was obviously there. He just severed it.
And that's why I actually kind of took offense to Matt Stryker. Oh, Johnny Mundo turned his back on the people. Did he now? Because, that reaction to him changed pretty quickly from where I was sitting.
Yeah, from where we're sitting, the temple changed on him.
Yeah, I'm pulling a CM Punk. I didn't turn on you. You all turned on me. But, yeah, really great stuff. I love the one heel spot in this match because Texano really was starting to gain momentum and turning the tide where Mundo kind of straddles him on the rope and he hits a flying chuck while Texano's in that precarious position.
Yep.
He doesn't get the end of the world. Texano moves out of the way, and
he goes for it though, and just lands on his feet.
Exactly, and it seems like Texano's going to close in on the victory because he's able to turn the tide. But then the crew, or the remnants of it, of course, Adam, Chavo.
Yeah, the two guys in the crew that aren't dead.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Bale, you have no face. But
showed up last, and he died first.
They come in, they put the boots to Texano, and Johnny Mundo at first gets on it, and then the crew looks up at him, and then Mundo's like, hey, why can't we all beat him up? And then they resume doing it. At which point, Alberto El Patron comes in, and Johnny Mundo making the tactical retreat, a la Owens.
Pulling a Kevin Owens, that's right.
And he gets out of the ring, he's like, no, I gotta collect my check at Ultima Lucha, I gotta milk this a little bit further. So then Alberto El Patron takes out his frustration on the crew, a kick here, an arm breaker there.
I feel like the crew are just like the silly putties from Power Rangers.
Yeah, more or less.
They're just like the goons that the actual bad guy sends in for the good guys to beat up while the bad guy gets ready to beat up the good guys.
Exactly.
Or they're just a meat shield while the bad guy makes an escape.
Right, though? Yeah, it's like, okay, you guys, gonna shove you in there and then I'm gonna make my escape.
Yeah.
But the really great thing about this segment, actually, is that, again, it doesn't insult fans' intelligence, and why I say that is Texano does recover, and he uses the bull rope on the crew, so he gets a little bit in, but then him and Patron have a tense stare down. Like, because Patron saved him, but I feel like Texano was about to accidentally hit him with the bull rope. So they come at a standstill, and Matt
Well, I mean, dude, that's instinct at this point. Texano and Patron have not been friends, like, ever.
Exactly, and Stryker, kind of illustrates that point. He says, Patron may have made the save tonight, but there's a lot of animosity between these guys, but that's a different story for a different day.
That's like, I like that they're kind of trying to keep AAA and Lucha Underground storylines separate, because that is a AAA thing, and I feel like they kind of used that storyline to debut Patron and Texano, but they're not keeping it going for the sake of AAA.
Exactly, and I think that's what's so brilliant about it, because you use it as an entry point
Yeah.
for these two guys, but then you have them build their own organic narratives in a separate promotion.
I love that too. I love it when somebody kind of gets introduced into a story by making it seem like they're already kind of halfway into their own story, and it just happens to intersect with the story that we're already aware of.
Exactly. Beautifully said. I can't even add anything more to that. So this is a solid opener. Great heel work from Mundo. Great comeback there from Texano. He, of course, has his match with Blue Demon Jr. Mundo with Alberto El Patron. It's going to be good stuff, and this is a great segment.
Absolutely. Up next, we had Hernandez, or Fernandez if you're Johnny Mundo, in Dario Cueto's office. Cueto just kind of offered him a few drinks. Hernandez turns them all down. Cueto says that he absolutely loves what Hernandez has been doing with Drago, and that scrubs fans, which is basically, I mean, obviously, I'm summing things up. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what Cueto said. But he wants to come up with a new match type, and he's been thinking about it, and he came up with this. He's going to surround the ring with fans and give them all leather straps. And they're going to act as lumberjacks, where if somebody in the match gets thrown out of the ring, they can do whatever they want to them. So that's a thing, and he's calling it the Believers Backlash match.
Yeah, I really love this, dude. I love how Lucha Underground, and you'll definitely see it, I think, come full circle, or reach its apex, if you will, in a later segment, which I can't wait to talk about. But here, I love that they just keep pushing the envelope and, kind of, making these original concepts.
I love that no two matches on Ultima Lucha are the same stipulation.
Exactly. That's a great point, too. And, I actually have quite a bit to say about the Lucha Underground, or not Lucha Underground, Ultima Lucha card. I don't know if we'll kind of get into that a little bit here. Or
I have the rundown written down in my notes, so I know every match that they announced.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But, I love Hernandez's response to it, because, again, I love how they do their heels, because Hernandez could kind of have, like, a panicked look in his eye or say this and that, but he's like, no, he's swelling back his beer, and he says, you know what, those dumbass fans, you better have them sign waivers, because if one of them hits me, I'm going to stain your camera with their blood.
Canvas.
Canvas, yeah. And Cueto just kind of gives a smile, because he loves violence. So I love that Hernandez has this nonchalance about it. Like, the Believers aren't going to do anything to me. They're nothing. So we do have the stakes kind of set. Believers Backlash, they'll get to get a piece of Hernandez. So will Drago. And it's all going to come to a head at Ultima Lucha, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a really, just the idea is crazy to me. Obviously, you know what? I don't even want to say obviously, because no one Lucha Underground, they're crazy enough to actually do this, but just thinking with kind of traditional wrestling logic, the fans at ringside are going to be plants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so.
You think, right?
Yeah. Again, Lucha Underground is the only promotion I know of that's crazy enough to actually do that with actual fans.
I could just picture a story coming out later, people actually signed legit waivers and they got to have the time of their lives.
Yeah.
To be fair, though...
Talk about a front row seat, am I right?
Yeah, to be fair, though, I would totally sign that waiver. So I can't even say anything about people who would do that.
Yeah, you would beat Hernandez with one of your crutches.
Exactly. I just got to get in there. Yeah! And then he'd look at me and I'd be like, oh my god, I forgot you don't have to sell my offense. I'm
Drago, please! Drago, save me!
But, yeah, man. I don't know what Lucha Underground's going to do. Again, Wrestling 101 says plants, but you never know with Lucha Underground.
You would make such an amazing heel.
Oh, me?
Yeah, because you could beat people up with your crutches, and then when they turn on you, you could just be like, you wouldn't hit someone with crutches, would you?
Oh my god, I'd pull Paul Heyman. Please, I'm just a fan. I'm a cripple, please.
Oh my god.
Alright, man.
Well, this has devolved.
Do you want anything else you want to say about Believers Backlash?
It's going to be incredible. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I don't know. The weird thing is, we found out tonight that we're going to basically get 3 hours of Ultima Lucha, 1 hour next week, and then 2 hours on the 5th. I don't know how we're even going to handle that. I would like to be able to watch it live, but we haven't been able to watch Lucha Underground live for 2 weeks in a row now, so I don't know how that's going to work. I'm thinking maybe what we could even do is skip Lucha Underground next week and then watch all 3 hours of Ultima Lucha on the 5th.
That actually sounds like a great idea to me. Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all, actually.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. If we can watch it live next week, we're totally going to. But if we cannot watch it live next week, we will not watch it at all next week. And we will watch all 3 hours and live react to all 3 hours on the 5th.
Well, guys, you've heard the plan here first. I'll affix my signature to that. So I guess let's move on. And Ashton, what do we get after this?
The Mack versus Cage in one of the weirdest, quickest matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. Cage comes out of the box very aggressive. Really imposes his will on the Mack. Gets some nice hard back elbows there. Really seems like he's clubbing away at the Mack. But then he gets caught in like a roll-up, and he gets pinned. And that's it. And, then they start brawling back and forth because, Cage came to Matt Striker, who really has improved on Lucha Underground. Even if I still make fun of him here and there, like, I'm loving more of the lines he's coming out with lately.
Dude, it's so funny, and I hate to bring this up on a Lucha Underground review. It's so funny, but I was actually thinking earlier about who I would make my commentator of the year. Like, if the year ended right now, who would be my commentator of the year? And it's so close, but just thinking earlier, I would have had to give the edge to Corey Graves.
Right.
But man, it's not because it's like a head and shoulders above the rest kind of thing. Like, it is neck and neck with him, Striker, Vampiro, and even Steve Corino or King Corino in ROH. They're all just on a notch above everybody else.
Well, I just love how Striker and Vampiro play off of each other. And that's one thing.
And I think that's what made it so difficult to choose between the two of them versus Corey Graves, who really is the star of his commentary desk.
And I'm glad you said that, Ashton, because I noticed with commentary elsewhere, save for ROH, because to be honest, I don't have a problem with ROH's announced team either. Right. But in WWE in particular, since you brought up Corey Graves, it seems like I don't really feel like that streamlined chemistry. Like if it's 3 guys, I feel like either maybe 2 guys would have chemistry in a set and maybe different pairs, but never all 3 as a trio or just whatever. Whereas with Striker and Vampiro, there is a good balance between those guys. I love how those guys work off each other. And to bring it full circle, Striker had a line about, the Mack and Cage. Well, the Mack came to wrestle, Cage came to fight. Yeah. And I love that because you could clearly see that in their approach to this brawl. And then Cueto comes out and he says, hey, you guys want to kill each other so bad you want to hurt each other? I'm going to find every object I can find in this temple. We're going to gather it all around. And this is when he makes the announcement, Ultima Lucha is starting next week. It's so big, it's got to be 2 weeks. And
I love that, though. I mean, it's crazy just because of our inability to actually access Lucha Underground episodes on a regular basis. But holy crap, it's amazing that they're extending this. It's basically a full-fledged pay-per-view at this point because it's a 3-hour show if you count the 1 hour next week and the 2 the following week.
Yeah. And I mean, you talk about, Ultima Lucha, Ultima being ultimate. I mean, it's such a grand
And that's affair. Funny, too. The name of this episode was Pen Ultima Lucha.
Yeah. Man.
Oh, my goodness. I saw that, and I was like, well, that can't be right, because that implies second last, and Ultima Lucha isn't for another 2 weeks. And then they hit us with this. Like, you're literally spoiling your own show in the title.
But that's how confident they are, I think. They're like, you're going to tune in anyway. You have no power over this. And then you're like, that's not... That is true. And then, but we find out... It's
not fair, but you're totally right.
So we find out it's going to be the Mack and Cage in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Now let me ask you something here real quick, Ash. And I don't want this to evolve, because I always love when we do these, but I don't really think I want it to evolve in like a whole preview predictions kind of thing, unless you want to kind of save that for the end. I don't know what we're going to do.
Oh, no. We're going to do preview and predictions in a separate video, brother.
Okay, so that's still the plan. Okay, I like that. I'm glad we're staying the course with all that. But, do you...
Maybe, I'll tell you what, guys. Maybe next week, if we can't get a live feed of Lucha Underground's first hour of Ultima Lucha next week, instead of that, we'll put out Lucha Underground Ultima Lucha preview and predictions next Wednesday.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, I like that.
Ahead of time. How great is that?
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. I was going to say, though, you a little worried about Cage in this whole feud, or do you think he's going to come out okay? Because he's lost twice now to the Mack.
I have a question, John.
Yeah.
Do you have eyes?
Yeah.
Okay, look at Cage and tell me if I should be...
That man's going to take care of himself.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
He is the Brock Lesnar of Lucha Underground.
I am glad, though, that the Mack is getting this kind of rub, because he's got such a unique look, and his athleticism is off the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both guys are really going to come away from this looking quite nice, and I think that's the best part about...
And that's the thing, too, is that, like, in a sense, you could say that the Mack kind of out-wrestled Cage in this, or at least outsmarted him, which, I mean, Cage's character isn't meant to be super intelligent, so that's not even that much of a knock.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Cage beat the shit out of him after that.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the Mack was beaten up on security guards, but Cage beat the shit out of the Mack.
Yeah, I mean, real bad. Like, he whooped that ass.
Yeah.
And,
so much so that, like, he literally walked the Mack up the stairs as Dario Cueto was coming out to make this announcement.
But that's what I kind of love about Lucha Underground, though, because you have the Mack getting this rub, and Cage started his season, his personal season of Lucha Underground, pretty dominant, and now it's all like this other talent's catching up to him. But then I feel like everybody kind of gets a reset when you go to season 2, because we actually have a break, a legitimate break. You know, that's what makes them so different from pretty much everyone else, is that they do have an off season.
Yeah.
And so,
Wrestling dies on August 6th.
Exactly.
Actually, well, I mean G1, so okay, wrestling dies on August 17th.
Yeah, there you go. It's crazy to me, but I'm really enjoying this program. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on Cage's end of the stick, and yeah, you just look at the guy. I'd like anybody to tell him to his face that things aren't going well for him. So, what comes after this, bro?
After this was the big announcement. Dario Cueto, first he says about how we're going to get Cage versus the Mack in that Falls Count Anywhere match, but then immediately he says, I'm going to explain the power behind the 7 ancient Aztec medallions right now. And we go to commercial, and when we come back, he is in the ring, and he says that the 7 of these medallions together make up the gift of the gods. And he reveals an absolutely gorgeous belt that anyone would be just killing people to get to. And he announces that this is the gift of the gods belt. And then he calls out everyone who has a medallion to put into it. And he says that because Muertes destroyed Fenix, you know, he has to put the medallion on the line of the Battle Royal. But then he continues to explain the winner of all 7 medallions, there's going to be a 7-way Battle Royal next week. Did he say next week? At Ultima Lucha. I don't know if it's next week or in 2 weeks. And the winner gets this belt, and the person with the belt has the option to cash it in for a Lucha Underground World Heavyweight Championship match. However, he did specify, because he likes to actually advertise and promote his matches, especially his championship matches, there is no, I'm going to cash it in right now, like what WWE does. He doesn't say that, I'm saying it. But what he's saying is you have to give him at least a 1-week notice so that he can promote the match. And once you cash in this belt, the 7 medallions will be divided up and spread out through Lucha Underground.
I love it. You're quite literally talking about the Dragon Balls. Like, you use them up, and then they just spread across the galaxy, more or less. But here's the thing, though, Ashton, I don't know if you mentioned this or not. If you're not quick enough about using the belt, you could lose it to somebody else. So the inaugural champion that emerges at Ultima Lucha, they're not guaranteed to remain the champion, say, maybe 3 weeks later. If they don't use it in 3 weeks, Dario Cueto could be like, hey, we'll just insert a name, like, say, King Cuerno's the inaugural champion. King Cuerno, I'm bored. You're defending your title tonight against Fenix. And, then Fenix, if he won it, then he would have the chance to cash it in. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I think the only negative to this is that it's something that TNA actually thought up first.
Yeah, because if we're being
with the
honest,
X Division title option B.
Yeah.
Or was it option C? I think it's option C.
Option C. Option C that Austin
The
Aries
Austin Aries thing, yeah.
The
difference, though, is that there is so much more grueling of a process to earn this thing.
It's a more grueling process, and I love that the championship pretty much disintegrates after you use it, only to reassemble again the next year, or the next season, if you will.
Well, not even necessarily. I mean, they could decide to hand out the 7 medallions the next month if they wanted.
That's true.
I mean, if just say, for example, say Prince Puma retained, and then Big Ryck won the Gift of the Gods. Big Ryck could cash in the same night, let everybody know the same night that he's cashing in on episode 1 of season 2, win the title, and then Dario Cueto could be just kind of handing out medallions over the course of the following month, and we could get a second cash in that season.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's another very curious thing about this. Because it has an off-season and this and that, and because of the rules and regulations of the championship, it'll be very interesting to see how cash-ins do occur.
Yeah.
At what point in the season are they going to
Well, I mean, you've got to assume that the Gift of the Gods holder would just show up in Dario Cueto's office and say, next week I want my title shot.
Right, and then Cueto, he can't say no. He's got to do it. He's got to promote the fight. So I love this idea. I love the idea that it's not even a guarantee that the person to hold it one moment may not be the person to hold it the next. And, I guess it gives you that sense of urgency, but you also need to be, tactical about it at the same time. Because think about it. If Muertes was the Lucha Underground champion, do you really want to try and cash in during his run, or do you want to wait and see who he drops it to?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because it's kind of a combination of the X Division title with Option C and the Money in the Bank briefcase, because it's kind of like the Money in the Bank briefcase in that you can cash in whenever you want. You just have to wait a week for it to the match to actually happen. Right. But then it's kind of like the X Division title in that you have to defend the belt.
Right. Yeah, I love it, man.
I think it's a totally unique idea that takes a lot from other ideas to make the unique idea, and I love that.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm cool with it too, because I mean, it's like that adage goes: "There's nothing new under the sun."
There's nothing new, exactly. Everything in wrestling is stolen or borrowed. You know what they say? Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
There you go. And then Dario Cueto, he has all the people currently with medallions. So let me see if I can get this. Jack Evans, Sexy Star, Big Ryck, who was given a medallion in the opening segment, if you guys remember. Ben Gala. Let's see.
Aerostar,
and who else? Wasn't there one more person?
There was one more person.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You said Sexy Star.
Sexy Star.
Sexy Star, Bengala, Aerostar.
Yeah, Big Ryck.
Big Ryck.
Jack Evans.
Yeah. Who are we missing?
We're missing somebody, and I just can't think of who.
I feel horrible.
Yeah, I mean, Fenix, we know what happened to him, and we're going to get to that.
We'll talk about that later. Holy crap, who are we missing?
Yeah, who are we missing? Jesus, this is frustrating. Let's see.
Not Pentagon.
Not Pentagon, no, he didn't want any of the medallions.
Oh my god, I feel so stupid right now.
King Cuerno!
Oh, yeah,
King
wow.
Cuerno.
How could we?
I feel dirty right now. Ugh. Poor King Cuerno. So yeah, King Cuerno, and then I think that was it. And then
for what it's worth, King Cuerno showed up in freaking jeans and a button-up. He wasn't King Cuerno tonight.
Yeah, you were someone else. But yeah, and then Dario Cueto says, well, because Muertes destroyed Fenix, this medallion is once again up for grabs. Yeah. But then Fenix does come out, and he's like, what's going on? That's my medallion. And he's just kind of staring Cueto down.
And then Cueto's just like, oh, sorry, SA, but guess what? You're a little late, but you can totally try and win it back.
Cueto is just the best kind of douchebag.
I feel like when he smiles, he needs to have like a tooth missing in the corner of his jaw. Just so that he does this big wide smile and you just see a gap somewhere. Like that just seems like the kind of guy that he would be.
I know. So then we get
or even like a gold tooth.
Gold tooth I think would be hilarious. But then we do get this battle royal. And I'm not even going to try and go through all the names. Did you take the names in your notes or no?
I did not, but I will name a few of them.
Okay.
Daivari was in there. Marty the Moth was in there. Famous B, Ricky Mandel, or Hernandez, Mascarita Dorada. Or no. Sagrada. Yeah, Dorada was El Torito. I'm trying to
Superfly was in there.
Superfly was in there. Killshot was... he was probably the most impressive person in this match, to be honest, other than the eventual winner. Yeah, I think that's all I can think of. There were probably a couple of more people in there, but I don't remember them.
I'll be honest.
Vinny Massaro was in there.
Yeah, Vinny Massaro.
Vinny Massaro was in there. Yeah, Vinny Massaro was in there. Famous B, Ricky Mandel. I'm trying to think of all the people whose arm got broken by Pentagon Jr. because they were all back in this match.
Yeah, Hernandez.
Well, it was the four guys: Vinny, Hernandez, Famous B, and Ricky Mandel.
Right. I gotta say though, I was pretty impressed with Famous B in this match. Actually,
he reminds me so much of JTG. It's so weird.
I know, you were even saying that to me. It's like, yeah, it's like JTG, and I'm like, I see it definitely. But like, Famous B, he did a suck it, he did a pedigree at one point.
Yeah, and Matt Stryker was just like, "Oh, it works on Monday nights. Is it gonna work here?"
He actually got 2 eliminations in this match.
Yeah,
which surprised me. Like,
one of which I believe was actually Vinny Massaro, wasn't it?
No, I don't think Vinny Massaro was one. Hernandez was one, though, that Famous B eliminated.
Yeah.
And that surprised me, because I thought Hernandez, I don't know why, I just
Killshot was the other one, wasn't it?
Killshot was eliminated.
Or no, was Killshot the one that... I'm trying to remember who got eliminated on Masquerita Sagrada doing the head scissors takeover.
I think that was Superfly, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
He did a monkey flip to Superfly, yeah.
Yeah, because Sagrada eliminated himself with that one, so that was kind of a facepalm kind of move.
Exactly. And then Killshot. You want to talk about facepalm, though. After he's done killing everybody, he decides it's a brilliant idea to go to the top rope, at which Delavar Daivari, like, he's on the apron, and he's like, oh, well, that's convenient. Push. And he eliminates Killshot.
Oh, yeah. That was so unfortunate, because I was super enjoying Killshot's work in this match. He was killing it, man. And I said that in the match, and I feel like I shouldn't say it because kill is in his name, so it sounds like I'm just saying the word kill too much, but he really was doing amazing in this match. I enjoyed his work a lot.
See, I just love Lucha Underground so much because I look at all these guys and I'm like, I really want them all to have a better season 2. Like,
it's so funny because, like, I'm thinking, like, we saw the people in this match and I'm like, oh my god, it's a jobber battle royal. But then at the same time, most of the guys really stood out and did really well. So I can't even really say, like, oh, these guys are just these generic, faceless, nameless jobbers, because there's some kind of emotional attachment to every single person that was in this match. Even if it's very, very minuscule, it was there.
I think what's so great about Lucha Underground Ash is that they do clearly have their jobbers. I'm not saying they don't, but I think they go out of their way to protect everyone just enough that if they ever decided to take a legitimate interest in that person in a future season or program, or however you want to put it, they can do it. And it wouldn't take that long.
All it would take is just a little, kind of like a little extra thing to make it seem like their previous work wasn't quite as much as they could possibly do.
Exactly. Like, if next season was to have a more predominant focus on, say, somebody like Hernandez,
it
wouldn't take me that long to believe it. I could, even after seeing Famous B tonight, if, like, he was just to walk in Cueto's office and maybe cut a promo and show some personality, I'd be like, well, damn, let's do it. Like, that's what I love about Lucha Underground. I think they protect everybody just enough that if tomorrow they go from jobber to investment, it's not that much of a leap. And I think this match definitely illustrated that fact. And speaking of people that are definitely having their stocks ascend and becoming bigger and more prominent, this match comes down to Marty the Moth and Fenix.
And what I love is that they treated it like 2 completely separate matches, because the Battle Royal felt like a match, and then Marty versus Fenix felt like a completely different match.
Exactly, because Cueto even says in this Battle Royal, when it comes down to the final 2, you can only win by pinfall or submission.
Right, so I count that as a separate match, and that being said, this was a 4-match show.
Exactly. Look at Lucha Underground, man. They listen to you, and they're just like, hey, we're going to give this guy 4 matches at least.
You can't even say they listen to me, because I've only been complaining about the 3-match thing for like 3 months, and they taped this in April.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they had like a pretty big priority list, but they got there. But yeah, I enjoyed the back and forth between Marty the Moth and Fenix here. You know that Marty the Moth has fanfare, and I don't want to make this like the biggest deal, but I mean, Ashton, where we watch Lucha Underground on time, they usually do these polls, like who's going to win this match. Marty the Moth and Fenix were tied at 42 votes apiece. I can't remember the last time I've seen such a divide in a wrestling matchup. So I think Marty the Moth's got this fanfare where people really want to get behind him and believe that he can beat the big names like a Fenix.
Because he's freaking awesome. Entertainment, man. He's an entertaining dude. That's what it comes down to.
He's so freaking good.
This season of Tough Enough would kill for him to have come back.
It's so true, too. They would have, and they would have been damn grateful for the
opportunity. Because there are no entertainers on this season at all.
No. I mean, I've already sung the praises of Marty the Moth. If you go back a few episodes of Lucha Underground TWitWoW, I mean, I go on a big, praiseworthy tirade of Marty the Moth, so I won't, rehash that here. But, I mean, I can't wait for his second season. Maybe he'll even make a statement at Ultima Lucha. Who knows with Marty the Moth?
I hope I hope that at some time in season 2, he wins the Gift of the Gods.
I do too, actually. I do too. I mean, well, let me put it to you like this. I'd be okay with him doing that, but it depends on who the inaugural champion is first. Because then my opinion may change. But yeah, Marty the Moth is excellent, but apparently not excellent enough to beat Fenix because he tries going for a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Fenix counters it in like a head scissors. Now, I think that Marty the Moth is trying to hang on and maybe powerbomb Fenix, but Marty the Moth gets caught in a pinning combination, and it is the 3 count. So Fenix earns his way pretty much twice into this Gift of the Gods match because he had a medallion once before. Then Muertes, wrecked his shit. And then he had to earn his way again after being thrown through a building. I think Fenix has earned his spot in Ultima Lucha.
Yeah. All the stuff that this guy has gone through. Wow.
Road to WrestleMania, my ass. You want a huge battle royal? I got tossed through a building. Yeah. Take a seat.
Not even just tossed either, power bombed.
Yeah, it's
it's not even just like somebody gently dropped me through the building. No, they drove my back into the ceiling. My back broke through the ceiling, and then I landed on the floor from falling from the ceiling.
I had to interact with someone that had the sole intent of ruining my livelihood. What's your excuse?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Grave Consequences, but just because I won that didn't make it any easier. He still made me bleed and rip my mask practically off.
But you know what, though? That's what
I even had help from somebody in that match. What the hell would you do?
I feel like Fenix's story really encapsulates just the beauty of Lucha Underground, though, because the violence, and dare I say even the horror, considering the characters we may talk about, is so great and, not to be punny, but grave. And yet the rewards seem just so worthwhile because Fenix is still in the fight. He's still winning, and he's still eyeing the prize and give to the guy. Like, it just makes the Lucha Underground Championship seem so important when a guy can get powerbombed through a building, and he knows the opportunity at a future title shot is so great, he makes sure he's at that temple, and he earns his spot in it again.
Dude, Fenix has had such a roller coaster of a season.
Absolutely, and hell,
because it seemed like he was really kind of like the chosen one to take the title from Puma. And then he lost the title match to Puma, and then he got involved with Muertes, and he won Grave Consequences, yay! But it turns out you were only being used to make your opponent stronger, boo. And then it's like, oh, but he won this Aztec medallion, yay! But then you're gonna get power-driven or power-bombed through the roof of a building, boo. Like, just up and down. But then you're still alive, yay! But then you still have to fight for your medallion that you already earned the right to have, boo. But then you win it, yay! I am fully expecting him to get, just murdered at Ultima Lucha, because that's the only logical next step for him, is to go way, way, way down, because now he's back up.
Everything you said was correct, but I have to make a minor correction of your whole breakdown of Fenix this season. You said he won Grave Consequence. No. You don't win Grave Consequences.
He survived.
You survived Grave Consequences. Because he was bleeding everywhere.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't say he won that match. He defeated Muertes in that match.
Yeah, and just one more note, and then we can move on to our, I believe this would be our main event segment. I said after Grave Consequences, if you remember that episode of TWitWoW, that victory to me was so well done and the crowd was so behind Fenix. He was the straightforward number one contender. So if I had to pick somebody in this slot to be the inaugural Gift of the Gods champion, it is certainly Fenix.
Yeah.
I feel like his business with the world title is just beginning.
I feel like it really has to come down to him and Cuerno.
Yeah, dude.
Because, and I think that's another reason why I forgot about Cuerno when we were trying to think up who the last person was in this match earlier, because everybody else other than Fenix and obviously Cuerno, they're kind of mid-carders, kind of across the board. Because Aerostar, he's good, but he couldn't really hold his own against Drago. And then Bengala just showed up, and Big Ryck has been kind of the second-hand man for Daivari for the last few months, I don't know. Jack Evans hasn't really done anything special, and he only got the medallion because Dario Cueto was bored with his match. I guess Sexy Star, you could say, is kind of like that upper mid-card crust, but Fenix and King Cuerno really do feel like the creme de la creme in this match.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, because I look at everybody in that ring, and Sexy Star, and I don't say this insultingly, because, you know, I've thought very highly of her and her future in Lucha Underground, but I think she's still a long-term project. Not that she's bad, but I think her story really needs to be done right, and I think it could be huge. So that's what I mean when I say long-term project. But I think King Cuerno and Fenix, they're ready for prime time. Anytime you want to put the belt on them or put them in that situation, they will carry the ball and they will score touchdowns like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're those two guys. So I wholeheartedly agree with you that it comes down to those two. And I cannot wait for Ultima Lucha preview and predictions with you, because I have a feeling you and I, we may be divided on this match, but it's going to be one hell of a discussion, because the implications here are so huge. So
And
Phoenix
the crazy thing is, dude, like, I feel like, I know that this is awful because I hate to feel like Lucha Underground's ever getting predictable, but whether it's Fenix or King Cuerno, I think whoever wins that match is going to tell us who wins the main event. Because if Fenix wins, there's no way they're going to do Fenix versus Puma again. It would have to be Muertes. And if Cuerno wins, you would have to think it would be Puma, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, I don't know. I mean, it definitely seems like that match, it's kind of like a number one contenders match, but it's more long term, isn't it?
Yeah, I think actually that's a perfect way to describe it. But keep
And
in
you know
mind,
what,
though,
too? Freaking Sheamus just won Money in the Bank while there was a heel champion. So maybe Lucha Underground isn't even going to use that logic either. So this is what I love about Lucha Underground, man. They change it up so much that it's hard to predict. And they've honestly trained me to the point that I'm almost overthinking things, like simple things. Like a couple weeks ago, not even a couple weeks ago, it might have been a month or two ago, when Superfly made his big return and turned heel on Sexy Star, I thought, oh, well, that paint on his face kind of looks like an apprentice version of what Pentagon's face paint looks like. I wonder if he is the new apprentice to Pentagon's master. And it turns out, no, I'm just overthinking everything. That's because that's what Lucha Underground has trained me to do, because they make you think. They make you look at the details and really pay attention, because if you don't, you will miss something.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying about Gift of the Gods maybe having implications for the world title matchup, but I love that, you know, it could have a different title holder. So I feel like when we say, oh, this could say something, Lucha Underground's just like, you don't know anything, do you? And then you just have to kind of sulk in the corner and admit that you don't. But this
and plus you have to think, since this isn't technically a number one contenders match, you would almost have to think that Mundo Patron is a de facto number one contenders match, right?
Oh, God, why'd you have to put it like that? Because I didn't want Mundo to win bad enough. Now I'm just like, please win. But yeah.
Oh, you think I did that unintentionally?
Oh, you skank. But, yeah, I mean, God, but you do have a legit point, though, because I've kind of looked at, okay, whoever wins Mundo Patron, they're going to ride that momentum into Season 2. And then you've got the inaugural Gift of the Gods champion, like,
and that's the thing, too. We have literally never experienced a wrestling promotion with an off-season before.
Exactly.
Never. We don't know how they're going to handle it. We don't know if they're going to carry everything over from Season 1 and act like there was no off-season. We don't know if they're going to completely start everything fresh with the only thing having in common with Season 1 being the champions. We just don't know.
It's going to be crazy, man. And I'll tell you what, if we're talking this much about one match for Ultima Lucha, you can only imagine like the discussions we're going to have when it comes to running
preview and predictions.
Yeah, it's going to be insanity.
Well, and actually this is really good timing, because this is after the Marty versus Fenix match, where Fenix wins and then goes up and puts the medallion in the Gift of the Gods belt, as Dario Cueto looks on disappointed. We got an Ultima Lucha rundown. They told us every match that they've announced so far, and I'm going to just run it down. We're not going to do any big predictions. We're just going to leave little comments like, oh, that should be good. That should be good. Although that would probably get a little bit, repetitive. But regardless, the Mack versus Cage, Falls Count Anywhere, Mundo Patron, 7-way Gift of the Gods match, Texano Blue Demon, Team Sitcom versus the Disciples of Death for the tag titles, Drago Hernandez in a Believers Backlash match, Vampiro Pentagon, I think that's that's a Cero Miedo match, and then Puma Muertes for the world title.
Yeah. And you forgot one match. At least I didn't hear you mention it. Oh God, I forget what we called them. But I'm gonna have to revert to their old name. Strange Bedfellows versus the Disciples of Death for the Trios Tag Team.
I did say that. Team Sitcom versus the Disciples of Death.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. I apologize. So Team Sitcom versus Disciples of Death. Yeah, that one I'm really looking forward to too. That should be really good.
That is probably the match on this card, other than Mundo Patron, just for your reactions. But that's probably the match on this card that I'm looking the most forward to.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we've seen some of the stuff that the Disciples of Death can do, and Team Sitcom are just mentally handicapped. They're so ridiculous.
They're screwed. All right, man. Well, with that, I think this is where we get to our main event segment, the address of our
I love this
champion.
so much.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Can I just say Prince Puma is a freaking gangster?
Yes.
Because Melissa Santos welcomes him to the ring, and we hear the old "from Boyle Heights," and everyone's freaking out because, oh my god, he's from our hometown. He's such a great guy. He's a hometown guy, hometown hero. Yeah, Puma. And he's coming out in a freaking pink and yellow hoodie. And he comes down, and as soon as he gets the mic, he's getting ready to talk, and he's kind of pacing back and forth with the mic in his hand, and then Mil Muertes' music hits, and it's like, God damn it, I really wanted to hear Puma talk. But then Muertes comes out, and he does the old intimidating stare with Catrina, but next thing you know, the Disciples of Death hit. They come out, and they try to take out Puma, but Prince Puma, being the bad son of a bitch that he is, takes out all three of them by himself, and then friggin' Muertes comes down, and Puma handles him too. It was so good too, because Puma locked up with Muertes, and they're doing their thing, and Muertes goes to throw a punch, and Puma ducks it, and then Puma hits probably the fastest jumping, diving, one-footed sick kick that I think I've ever seen. He ends up, I don't remember if it was to Muertes or one of the Disciples of Death, but he hits the Benadryller on one of them, which is a Ricochet signature move. And then he ends up hitting the 630 on Mil, and he just gets up on the top turnbuckle and poses for Catrina. Like, yeah, you want to mess with this? Let's go, bitch.
The Benadryl, first of all, that was on one of the Disciples of Death before his face-off with Mil. And then, yeah.
I got distracted because he was so good. He was killing everybody. This was an amazing segment.
I love how he handled his business on his own, because I think he almost needed a moment like this, because before it always seemed like Conan had to protect Puma or watch over him.
Yes.
Puma took care of his own shit tonight. And you know what? At first I thought, and see, this is what you were kind of alluding to earlier, Ashton, with like, we've gotten programmed a certain way, watching WWE and other promotions, but Lucha Underground just does everything differently. Because I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, this is the note where, the Trios Champions, Team Sitcom, come out, and they take on the Disciples of Death, so we promote two matches in one segment, which I wouldn't have minded. But I was like, okay, no, man. Puma's like, I'm jacking up all your shit.
Yeah,
and he takes out everybody.
Messed them up.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, man, like...
That'll teach you to try and attack one by one.
Yeah, I love that he's that hardcore, too, because Puma, when you compare him to Muertes, he is a smaller guy. But the idea that he goes that hard, it's not even like... I feel like it would almost be insulting to say... What was that?
I was just going to say, he's small, but he doesn't give a shit.
No, he doesn't give a shit, and I love that. Because I feel like it would almost be insulting to say, oh, this is a David versus Goliath. No. Because...
I mean... So the problem is David only had a slingshot. This version of David has a freaking machine gun.
Exactly. It's just like, tell the Earth to get a room. We're doing this in the road. Yeah.
And this version of Goliath is also technically immortal. So there you go.
And dude, like...
What happens when a guy with a machine gun meets an immortal?
Here is the crazy thing, though, that I want you to think about as we kind of close out this episode. And now we really are at Ultima Lucha next week and then the week after with the 2-hour extravaganza. We have not heard in the longest time from Black Lotus or Matanza or any of that.
I know! I hope we get a massive blow-off to that angle on Ultima Lucha.
Dude, we have to.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing. You and I, what's the one thing... Well, I mean, we I can't even pose that question because I was going to say, what's the one thing we consistently give Lucha Underground credit for, but there are so many things. For them to deliberately withhold their hand like this, I mean, it's just that. It's deliberate. Because they're never like WWE where they're like, okay, we're just going to sweep this under the rug. No. They have been feeding us little morsel by little morsel, and now we haven't heard anything at all. So huge revelations and happenings are going to come in the next 2 weeks. I'm thinking during the 2-hour extravaganza especially. That's kind of my feeling about it. And, just knowing that we got this world title match mixed in with all that, which is such a well-hyped matchup because Prince Puma is such a credible babyface champion with the challenges he's overcome. And this version of Mil Muertes, I mean, my God, hasn't lost and is really unstoppable. Like, honestly, I could see Mil Muertes being the first guy to kick out of the 630. Like, he sold it tonight, and he seemed like he was in pain tonight. Do not be surprised, guys, if the 630, I mean, hell, I'd be really impressed if it only got a 1 count from Mil Muertes. But, yeah, I could see him eating that stuff. It's going to be a real barn burner of a world title matchup, without question.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the most excited that I have been for wrestling in so long. Between G1 and this and NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and I guess maybe a little bit about SummerSlam too, but mostly those 3 other things. Just so exciting. Man, August is absolutely stacked.
I mean, guys, Ultima Lucha begins next week, and I mean, you know, I don't know if we're going to see it or not, but again, you are going to get our preview and predictions, and it's just going to be one hell of an extravaganza. I can't wait for it. I mean, between Mundo Patron, which I've got such a personal stake in, this world title matchup, not scoffing at the rest of the card either, because Gift of the Gods especially, that's a
Actually, John, you know what I just realized?
What?
We're going to need to do preview and predictions before next week's Wednesday episode anyway, because that's part of Ultima Lucha. So we're probably going to just put up preview and predictions next Tuesday, I'm thinking.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Absolutely. But then, like, what I wanted to say, outside of all the matches, the story of Matanza and Black Lotus.
Yeah.
When's the last time, dude, that you really felt excited to get more information about a story on pretty much a pay-per-view? I mean, yeah, we're going to see it a different way, but like you said, this is pretty much the equivalent of a pay-per-view event, and one of the big selling points is a freaking story that isn't even manifested in a match on the card. That's insanity to me.
Yep.
Oh my God, I love this promotion so much. Anything else you want to say about this closing segment, dude? Because I know you loved it. So is there anything else you want to say?
No, this was just so good. Let's get into our next segment.
All right, high spots and low shots. You know, I gotta say that my low shot tonight is Mil Muertes, because I think he learned tonight the hard way that Prince Puma isn't going to be thrown around that easily.
Yeah, I mean, after tonight, Prince Puma ain't nothing to fuck with.
Exactly. You said it, my brother. You know, I think Puma has just proven that he's Lucha Underground champion for a reason, and this isn't going to be another day at the office or a day at the cemetery or wherever Mil Muertes likes to wander at Ultima Lucha for that world title.
Absolutely. This was just wow. All right, my low shot for the night. Just going to keep it simple. Again, like you were saying with Kevin Owens in the NXT, make the cut quick, Cage.
Yeah, man.
Because again, even though it was a quick roll up and you just look at him and he looks dominant, he still lost a match, and it was the second match in a row. So.
Yeah, man. Not good times. High spot, probably one of the more straightforward ones in recent memory, Fenix.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good. You're giving me the easy one then.
I mean, this guy has scratched and he has clawed, and he's pretty much earned his way into Ultima Lucha not once but twice. Yeah. Best night for Fenix because he made a triumphant return. And if you're Mil Muertes, I wonder how you feel about that. I mean, maybe their business isn't over either. We'll see.
Yeah. Fenix had a great night tonight, but it would have been better if he didn't have to fight for the medallion that he already earned.
That is true.
So, my highest spot is Prince Puma.
Yeah, man, I had to give you that one. You were so pumped by his offense tonight and how he really stood his ground.
It was so good, dude. Just so good.
Yeah, what a terrific champion. You know, like, yeah, there would be times like I'd be like, no, Mundo should be champion, but in all sincerity, like, fandom aside, great inaugural champion. That belt is probably one of the most prestigious things going right now, because when you have one guy gunning for it that pretty much can't be stopped in Mil Muertes, and you're going to have another person gun for it by having this championship in the Gift of the Gods, like, their world championship really means something. Like, I feel whoever drops it to Puma, that's a big freaking deal. And that episode, whenever that falls on, it's going to be a big talking point for you and I. Like, I feel like they've just protected Puma that much, and they've made his environment that much bigger. Lucha Underground, guys, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched it by now, I don't know what's wrong, because I know we keep pleading with everybody, you know, like, watch it.
Well, dude, I mean, if they're listening to this, it's because they already watch it. So
and yeah, we
there's no
always say
point
that,
in pleading with people, please watch Lucha Underground, even though they're listening to a Lucha Underground review.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are people out there that kind of listen to the review to kind of get an idea of how other people feel about it before they take the jump. Go in the pool. The water's fine. But yeah, to all of our committed
The
viewers,
water, I mean,
yeah.
the water might be a little bit cold at first, but once you get used to it, oh man.
I'm freaking doing backstrokes of happiness, just like, looking up at the sky and just being like, yeah, things are beautiful.
Maybe even some different kind of strokes.
Yeah, there you go.
If you know what I'm saying.
But yeah, nothing.
No, people, we're not masturbating in the pool. Relax. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah, really. This is are we really a PG program? I don't think so.
No,
But
PG-13. PG-13.
Yeah, we're a decent program, people. But anyway, Ashton, do you have any closing remarks you want to make about Lucha Underground? Because this brand is just, my God.
My closing remarks are Season 2 needs to happen, and if it doesn't, I might just have to go on a baby killing spree.
I know. I won't be that violent, but I'll definitely be getting more intimate with my blankets as I crawl under them and cry. Because my life will have just been reduced to nothing. So yeah, I can't wait for Season 2. It better happen. I don't know who will have to threaten to make it happen, but there you go. Guys, with that said, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What did you think of the closing segment? Do you think Prince Puma has a chance against Muertes? I want to hear everybody's thoughts on Gift of the Gods. What do you think of the concept? Who do you think is going to be the inaugural champion? And overall, what were your personal highlights of tonight's Lucha Underground? Be sure to take the conversation over to Pwitov, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. The Lucha Underground fans grow by the day in that group, so you'll definitely find a home there. But I get it. If you're like, I only want to speak with really diehard Lucha Underground fans, I like to keep the conversation minimal. Ashton has created a TWitWoW subreddit. You can find all of our TWitWoW episodes there, as well as creating your own personal threads on all things pro wrestling, directed at either Ashton or myself, or both. And again, guys, we will see you again for Day 2 of G1 Climax, where you will get the best in Premier English commentary, and myself and my cohort in commentary here, again, as we commentate the Machine Gun Carl Anderson versus Shinsuke Nakamura, who is going to win their first, Day 2 bout in their block. Until then, tune in and peace out.